All right, should be up and running here on both streams and it should be good to go here. All right, pretty interesting day in the market. Very, very wide range on today's daily bar. All right, so we'll be taking a look at that, what that means for the rest of the week. Let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for January 24th, 2022. Qs ended up 0.46. Initially was gapping down about 2%, was down, I think, close to 5% this morning. SPY up 0.4, so went back green on the day. Here is the daily bar. Here's this very wide range bar that I'm talking about that we got today here after the reversal in the middle of the day. All right. Yeah, it looks like we bottomed during lunch. All right, and then Qs recovered here. Okay, so coming into today, we were bearish on the Qs and SPY. All right, we were seeing that we were continuing, and then we got this gap down to start things off. Now, this morning on the gap down, I said there's a possibility that we get bought because the Qs and SPY are getting novice. They're extended from the 20 MA and then gapping down more. Okay, that we could get bought. And what I mean, or when I'm referring to get bought, is at the open. Okay, so I thought we might get bought at the open. We did not. Okay, we continued and we did this grind lower all through the morning session. Okay, so it was a really tough bottom to anticipate, to see that the market was going to rally and rally as much as it did. It really was, at least right off the bottom. Now, once it establishes an uptrend, right, and it's able to maintain the uptrend, then that does now fit, okay, the anticipation that we're pretty extended and we're due for a bounce. But I think it was very, very tough to know when the bottom was. Okay, so with that in mind, we'll go through the plays from today. Okay, first play off the bat was this VOD. Here's the VOD. It's an ADR, but it did have the volume. The gap is good. I like quite a bit. And the entry is fine. Entry is really tight, and I'm playing it long over the highs. Market's gapping down. This is gapping up. Triggered over 1691. I think I triggered around there. Yeah, 1692. Only got up to 95 and then failed. And, I said this, I'm going to try the VOD. Is not great, but if the market is going to bottom early on in the morning, this is going to be my way to play it because I like the gap. I like the relative strength. Well, as we know, market didn't bottom until lunch, right? And I think this also got a little bit of a, bounce later on into the day. Let's see where lunch is. Yeah, here's lunch. Yeah, and it sets the low during lunch as well. So, the VOD, that was kind of my attempt at, okay, if the market rallies hard, this is the way I want to play it. Okay, and then maybe if it's on its own page, based on the gap, based on the volume, then if the market doesn't bottom, maybe it'll still hold up as the market falls, which this didn't. Okay, so that was the first play right off the bat. After we saw that the market was not really bouncing and was starting to grind lower and make new lows, I was like, okay, let's find something to short. Now, the problem with finding something to play short is when the market does bottom, is that going to make all your plays move up? Or if the market doesn't move that much lower from the new lows it just made, because we're talking about, as the morning's going on and we're realizing that the Qs are staying weak and making new lows, is your play going to move or is it also going to reverse, right? Those are the concerns if you're going to enjoy something short. So what I want is something that has its own catalyst. You can see the HAYW volume picked up here, pretty big volume. You could see it right from the beginning because they did guidance for the next quarter already. And so we saw that we had the nice gap down, very weak daily, and then very kind of tight here consolidation. So that was the next play, the HAYW, this sell setup right there. Did take most of it down here on this first, right after this red bar. I said go ahead and trail it, I think to 84, 85. And then it made one more new low and then rallied back. So the runner did end up losing on the runner because of the way that it rallied back. I wanted to stick with it as long as I could, but it rallied back hard. The good thing is that on our initial move, we got about 2.5 Rs on the first 3 quarters. So that's good. You know, a good 2.5 R's chunk on that, and then we kind of lose a little bit, a quarter of an R on the back. That's fine on the last piece, because I just want to be in it as long as it's going to continue downtrending, and just proved in a hurry that it had bottom there. But overall, I think it's still a fine play. I don't have a problem with it. You know, I did go back and forth on this. I thought, well, if the market bottoms, you know, we may give back the whole thing. But because we'd already taken majority of the play, I was fine. I was just withholding whatever it was going to give, and ended up, you know, didn't want to give much more. Okay. The only other play today, so we went over a play that worked, that didn't work, that I probably should have played, just was moving a bit in a sloppy fashion and a little bit fast, was the PFE. Now the PFE, what I like about this gap down is that it's breaking the weekly. See how the weekly put some support there, led to new highs, but now it's failing on that support. This one I liked quite a bit. Was one of the gaps I went over in the morning as a kind of a favorite to look for at the open. So I had some base breakdowns. You can see they're sloppy though. Even this one, which does trigger, kind of gets shaken out by that topping tail. And so I think this was pretty good. It just kind of went in a hurry. Oh, I guess it rallied back hard too in the afternoon, because it did have another 15-minute sell here, which I thought was pretty decent, but then also reversed back hard. So that part, you know, on the PFE is fine. I think the one in the morning that I was trying to get an order in and then triggered fast was this one here. So you know, even here, actually sloppiness kind of continued. So you can see a lot of back and forth still. So it wasn't a nice smooth move. So, you know, it was nice to find that HAYW, because once we got in it, it was just, you know, off it went. You know, sometimes you get in a play, you know, especially I'm managing, I'm usually looking for at least 2 R's in the first target. This one dropped so fast that it was already up an R and a half. I was like, oh geez, are we almost at target already? So, you know, that was good follow through, really fluid move to start things off, but that's not always the way they're going to be. So even if I had played the PFE, actually on the PFE, the max potential on this from that morning play was actually bigger. It's just that you had to live through all this mess. Now, you know, I've gotten to the point, at least in my trading career, where I'm okay with living through some of this choppiness as long as I like what's going on the daily. And I think the gap is good, and it maintains the trend that I'm looking for. You know, it's not fun. It's not fun to watch the sloppiness, but you know, I think at this point, pretty experienced and patient enough to deal with that stuff. But of course, this stuff is always much nicer when you get to targets just right away. Disney was sort of the same way. You know, Disney was very similar, because Disney dropped and made new lows, did a little bit of a pause first, and then took us to the target. So, you know, these are fine actually. And then even on the management, holding the last runner and having the runner give the reach all the way back up to the stop. That's what happened on the Disney as well. So, you know, I think this, I'm not going to change anything, because I think the right thing to do was, you know, when you're up past 2 R's and you're at, this one got to 3 R's. I think Disney was a little bit shy of 3 R's on the max. You know, yeah, you want to protect what's on the table, and then just hold a little bit, and it's like basically a free play. It's a locked in winner with, you know, potential to get more. So, like the management on this one. I like the management on the Disney. And then, yeah, I think overall, fine with today's trades and today's management. Okay, the big question moving forward, just to recap here, is what will the Qs and SPY do? Okay, so I kind of introed, you know, the Qs and SPY because they were such a focus in today's trading that I kind of wanted to set the context for the individual plays, like why I did the VOD first, why I went to the HAYW next. Okay, but the Qs and SPY, we're going to be watching for an hourly sell. Okay, if we get it, and the earliest we could get it is tomorrow later in the morning. We couldn't really get the only way we could get it first thing in the morning is if we gap down underneath 343. If we gap down underneath 343, then we know today's high is the line in the sand. If we break back over that, we're not bearish anymore. Okay, so we need to see an hourly sell. Okay, there's a little bit more likelihood that the hourly sell will fail because of the way that we got such a big move up off the bottom. But this hourly downtrend is still intact. Okay, as long as that's the case, then I'm going to remain bearish on the Qs and SPY. Okay. So we'll see. I think it is a little bit more likely that the hourly fails. If we move up and we start basing and then we see the 20 May start to curl underneath price and then change direction, that could be another way. But I think the earliest that I'm anticipating that we get, we leave the bearish bias that we currently have is an hourly sell setup failure. Okay, is that we come in first and then we break below a previous bar's low and then we move back up and fail on the sell setup. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be watching for tomorrow. All right. So still, yeah, the picture overall is still pretty bearish. Just today's bar, you know, it is today is a bullish bar. I think that we have to recognize, but just one bar does not make a trend, right? So we'll have to see what follow through this bar gets, if this support gets tested, you know, things like that. Okay. All right, guys, we'll be back at it tomorrow, and I'll talk to you then. Have a good evening.